My brother Noah always told me that some things are better left unsaid. He was the type who could smile through a storm and pretend the wind wasn't cutting him open. I used to admire that about him. His poise, his effortless confidence, the way he could talk anyone into or out of anything. But that illusion shattered the day I walked into his apartment and saw something I was never meant to see. It started with something mundane. I'd borrowed a USB drive from him for a freelance project and in my typical scatterbrained way, forgot to return it. So I dropped by his place after work, thinking he'd appreciate the gesture. It wasn't late, maybe around 6, and his building's front door had a broken buzzer. I didn't knock. I figured we were close enough that I didn't have to. His apartment was quiet at first. I stepped inside and called out, "Noah?" No answer. I moved through the hallway toward the living room. That's when I heard laughter, low, intimate, and not alone. My stomach tightened. It wasn't unusual for Noah to have guests, but this laughter, it was layered with something else. I turned the corner, expecting to find him and Daniel maybe cuddled up on the couch. Instead, I saw my brother pressed against the kitchen counter, his hands in someone else's hair. Eli. I knew Eli Torres. He'd been Noah's best friend since college. I always thought he was kind, if a little intense. He'd stayed over plenty of times, helped Daniel plan. Surprises for Noah. Even helped move furniture when they bought their place. But this was not friendly. This was slow, deliberate kissing. Intimate touches. A rhythm that spoke of something long rehearsed. I didn't make a sound. I just stood there, frozen, watching. My breath caught, like my lungs had forgotten what they were supposed to do. I took a step back, careful not to make the floor creak, and slipped out the way I came in. Outside, the air was sharp and cruel, as if the universe itself was punishing me for witnessing something sacred and shameful. For the rest of the night, my mind spiraled. I couldn't unsee it. Every time I closed my eyes, there they were again. Noah and Eli locked in a kiss that unraveled everything I thought I knew about my brother. I didn't sleep, I didn't eat. I just sat in my apartment, staring at nothing, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do now. The next evening, Noah called. His voice was casual, almost rehearsed. "Hey, can we grab a drink tonight? Just us." He knew. I met him at our usual bar, a dim, brick-lined place near the river with good whiskey and bad lighting. He was already there when I arrived, too. Glasses on the table, one half empty. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "So," he said after a long sip, "you came by yesterday." I didn't respond right away. I just stared at the drink he'd poured me, then at him. He looked tired, not guilty, just burdened. "I wasn't spying," I said quietly. "I was just dropping off the drive." No. We sat in silence for a minute, the clink of glass and murmured conversations filling the space between us. "How long?" I finally asked. Noah looked down. "A while?" "And Daniel?" "He doesn't know." He exhaled hard. "Look, I know how this looks, and I'm not going to try to explain it away. It's complicated. It's messy." "Messy?" I repeated, stunned by the understatement. He leaned forward, voice low. "I'm not asking you to understand, Liam. I'm just asking you not to tell him." My jaw clenched. "You want me to lie?" "No," he said quickly. "I want you to stay quiet. There's a difference." It didn't feel like there was. "You've always been good at keeping things to yourself," he added, softer now. "Please, just keep this quiet. For me." I looked at him. My brother, my idol, the man who used to walk me to school and fix my bike when it broke. Now here he was, begging me to protect his secret, a secret that could destroy the man he lived with, the man who trusted him. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. When I left the bar, the city felt different, harsher somehow. I walked home with the weight of a secret I hadn't asked for pressing into my chest like a stone. And as I lay awake that night, one question kept echoing in my mind. Who the hell was my brother, really? I tried to bury it. I told myself it wasn't my business, that Noah was an adult and people made mistakes. But the image of him and Eli together had scorched itself into my memory. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. Every time Daniel smiled at me, I felt like I was lying to him with my silence. Daniel called a few days later, just to check in, he said. He was warm, thoughtful as always, asked if I wanted to grab lunch at the bookstore cafe he owned. I agreed, mostly out of guilt. The place was quiet, sunlit, smelling of paper and cinnamon. He greeted me with a hug, then slid a plate of scones across the table like nothing was wrong in the world. But his eyes, gentle as they were, had a question behind them. Has Noah seemed distant to you lately? He asked, stirring his tea slowly. My throat tightened. I forced a shrug. Maybe a little. He's been busy. Daniel smiled, but it was thin. I don't know. He comes home late. Says it's work, but it doesn't feel like work. He flinches when I touch him. I said nothing. I couldn't. He looked at me like I might have answers he'd been too afraid to voice aloud. I swallowed the guilt and changed the subject. That night, Eli texted me. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply button. Curiosity won out. We met at a quiet bar far from downtown. Eli looked tired, more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. No stylish coat, no confident smile, just jeans, a hoodie, and eyes full of something like regret. I didn't mean for you to see that, he said, voice low. But I'm not sorry. It happened. I didn't respond. He continued. It's not a fling. This thing with Noah. It's been simmering for years, since college. I tried to stay away when he got married, but he kept pulling me back. His honesty was jarring. There was no pretense, no performance, just truth, raw and awkward. Do you love him? I asked before I could stop myself. Eli hesitated. I used to. Maybe I still do. But now I think I'm just stuck. Trapped between the past and what we both wish had happened instead. There was a sadness in his voice I hadn't expected. A kind of quiet desperation. And despite everything, I felt for him. He wasn't just some villain in Noah's story. He was tangled in it just like me. Over the next few days, we talked more. Texts turned into calls. We weren't supposed to connect. He was part of the problem, after all. But I couldn't help it. He understood the mess I was in because he was drowning in it too. Late one night, we ended up sitting in my apartment, talking until the city went silent. Eli curled on the couch, staring at the ceiling. I didn't mean to hurt Daniel, he said softly. I think that's the worst part. He's so good. I don't know what he did to deserve this. I didn't either. And yet, as he sat there, so human and flawed and painfully honest, I felt a warmth in my chest I couldn't explain. A pull toward him, not just out of empathy, but something deeper, something dangerous. That terrified me. Daniel called again the next day. He was organizing a surprise party for his and Noah's anniversary. 5 years. He wanted help decorating the rooftop where they'd had their first date. Can you keep a secret? He whispered with a laugh. I'm planning a slideshow. Old photos, memories, stuff I think he's forgotten. I want to remind him why we work. I nearly dropped the phone. My voice cracked when I told him I'd help. He was trying to save something already broken, and I was watching it all fall apart from the inside. That night, I dreamed about Eli, about him standing too close, about the warmth of his hand on mine. I woke up sweating, breathless, ashamed. I was slipping towards something I didn't understand and couldn't justify. My brother's lie had become my prison, and Eli was the only one who knew what the walls felt like. And the worst part? I didn't want to stop talking to him. The rooftop was glowing with string lights and quiet hope. Daniel had outdone himself. Photos of him and Noah from college to present lined the railings, clipped on wires with tiny clothespins. There was a slide projector set up with soft music, looping through a playlist called Our Story. Eli arrived late, dressed neatly, expression unreadable. When our eyes met, something inside me shifted, a weight or a warning, I couldn't tell. Guests mingled with wine and finger foods, but I couldn't focus on any of them. My eyes kept darting between Noah, Daniel, and Eli, waiting for something to combust. But everything stayed painfully still, like a glass about to crack. Daniel called for attention with a light tap on his glass. His smile was radiant, proud. 5 years, he began, holding Noah's hand. That's longer than some sitcoms. Last, and through everything, I've never stopped being grateful for you. Noah smiled, but I could see the stiffness in his jaw. Daniel turned toward the slideshow, and old pictures flickered to life. Beach trips, moving day, their wedding, that awful tie Noah wore to the rehearsal dinner. People laughed softly. I felt nauseous. Beside me, Eli was still, his hands tucked, in his pockets, his expression unreadable. But when Noah looked toward him, just briefly, his entire face shifted. It wasn't longing or guilt. It was something worse. Familiarity. I pulled Eli aside halfway through the party. We stood behind a potted fern, far from the twinkle lights and curated nostalgia. Do you love him? I asked again, though I wasn't sure I needed the answer anymore. He hesitated. I don't know. You have to know. You blew up everything. For him. I think I was in love with the version of him I met in college, he said. But that version's been gone a long time. There was silence between us, brittle and loaded. I could feel the gravity between us, the quiet tension that had been building for weeks. And before I could stop myself, I leaned in. So did... The kiss was brief, no fanfare, no crescendo, just two people giving in to something they didn't have a name for. It ended quickly, but the damage was instant. I stepped back, heart racing. This was a mistake, I whispered. I know, he said, but he didn't look sorry. I left the party early, blaming a headache. I couldn't bear to see Daniel's face anymore, not while knowing what I knew, what I'd done. The guilt burned through my skin like acid. I barely made it through my front door before collapsing onto the couch, hands trembling. Noah showed up the next day. He didn't knock, just barged in, eyes dark, voice clipped. You kissed him. I didn't deny it. I couldn't. You were supposed to keep your distance, he snapped. You promised me silence, not betrayal. You asked me to carry your lie, I said coldly. You asked me to rot from the E. Inside while you cheated on the man who loves you. I didn't choose this. He laughed bitterly. You had choices. You could have stayed away from Eli. You could have stayed faithful. The silence that followed felt like the end of something. Maybe it was. Daniel found out 2 days later. I don't know how. Maybe Noah told him. Maybe Eli cracked. Maybe he'd known all along and finally had enough evidence to stop pretending. Their marriage didn't end in flames, it just quietly unraveled. A moving truck came one morning, and by nightfall, Daniel was gone. The photos disappeared from social media. The bookstore stayed open, but his name no longer came up in conversation. Eli vanished too. One day he stopped texting. His Instagram went blank. It was like he never existed. Maybe that was easier for everyone. As for me, I haven't seen Noah in weeks. Our last conversation still echoes in my head. We're supposed to protect each other, he said. I did, for a while. But keeping his secret meant losing my soul in slow motion. And when I looked at Eli that night, I saw someone else who was just as lost. Someone I wanted to understand, even if it meant crossing lines I'd sworn I never would. Now, there's only silence. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind, the kind you carry long after the storm has passed, wondering if the wreckage was worth it.